We say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary.
Tariffs.
This is a direct attack.
Trump's new tariffs have reignited a trade war with China, Canada, Mexico, and even India. But what does that mean for you? From pricier groceries to shrinking paychecks, we'll uncover how this global fight could quietly steal your next raise. You scan the same groceries and boom, the price total jumps to double what you're used to. Should you stock up now before things get even more expensive? Tariffs add to the cost before goods even reach the aisle. And that bump rolls through the supply chain from importers to distributors to stores straight to you. Some staples spike fast. Others sit like time bombs until contracts reset. To President Trump, America's trade deficit wasn't just a problem. It was a national emergency. In response, his administration's answer was sweeping tariffs slapped on almost the entire world. It began with a 10% baseline tariff on all imported goods, followed by customized tariffs against individual nations. Global markets reacted sharply. Some sectors crashed. Trade tensions flared with Canada, Mexico, and China. Businesses braced for rising costs. Households started feeling price shocks. These new tariffs are more than political theater. Many goods, raw materials, inputs, finished goods are caught up. Steel, aluminum, auto parts, electronics, and more. Some tariffs under Section 232, steel and aluminum, were raised to 25% with fewer exemptions. Some are higher in specific categories. According to Penn Wharton's budget model, the tariffs introduced in April 2025 would reduce long-run U.S. GDP by about 6% and wages by about 5% compared to no tariff baseline. A middle-income household is projected to face a $22,000 lifetime loss under these policies. Effective U.S. tariff rates have jumped substantially. Before these, effective rates were often below 4% for many imported goods. Now, with the across-the-board 10% baseline plus higher rates for targeted countries, some goods face much steeper levies. Early on, many U.S. companies have been absorbing much of the cost. Profits are squeezed, margins compressed. If you're in manufacturing, retail, importing, or using imported components, the early shock comes here. But this doesn't last forever. Goldman Sachs estimates that companies will pass on roughly 70% of the direct cost of tariffs to consumers via higher prices over time. Many businesses delay price increases initially to remain competitive, but as cost pressures build, rising costs of inputs, wage pressures, inventory depletion, those delays fade. Tariffs work like a tax on goods, often invisible until you pay the bill. Because many heavily used goods, or components for goods, are imported or include imported materials, a tariff on those inputs hikes costs throughout the supply chain. According to CPR, the short-run cost per typical household, due to tariffs and resulting price increases, is about $4,900, which falls to about $2,600 once consumers shift consumption to cheaper alternatives. Inflationary pressure, consumer goods, durable and non-durable, will see price hikes. Goldman Sachs and others are warning that in many categories consumers will feel the increases soon. Corporate earnings are already showing the strain. For example, automakers like Toyota have reported profit drops. Toyota saw about a 37% fall in one quarter, largely due to input and import costs from the new tariffs. GM projects a tariff-related cost burden in the billions for 2025. Businesses can try absorbing costs, but margins can't shrink forever. Some have raised prices, others are threatening to. Once a few major companies pass on costs, others tend to follow. This accelerates the spread of price increases across many sectors. Small businesses are hit especially hard. smaller margins, less flexibility to negotiate with suppliers, less ability to wait out price increases. Many may reduce hiring, postponing investment, cutting back in ways that affect employees. Let's say you get a 3 to 4% raise this year. Sounds solid. But if inflation, fueled in part by tariffs, is rising at 4 to 5% or more, that raise might barely cover the increased cost of living, or even leave you worse off in real terms. Penn Wharton projects long-run real wage declines of approximately 5%. Meanwhile, households are already facing higher spending, more for groceries, appliances, cars, building and home fixtures. Metals rising in cost hit construction, home repairs, furnishings. Auto parts go up. Goods with imported components cost more, even if final assembly is domestic. Even for goods made in USA. If any input is imported, tariffs can push up the costs upstream. Utilities, transportation, delivery costs stretch upward because they often rely on imported parts or fuel. Lower and middle-income households are especially exposed because a larger share of their budgets goes toward goods subject to tariff-induced price increases. A retailer or electronics maker from Asia or Southeast Asia sees product cost go up due to reciprocal tariffs. They try to absorb it to avoid scaring customers, but at some point have to raise retail prices. In autos, imported vehicle prices and parts see tax burdens. Some tariffs stack, metal parts plus finished goods. Even with some exemptions or credits, for example, assembly credits, much of the increase tends to land on consumers. In home building or contracting, steel, aluminum, fixtures, siding, roofing, HVAC, all input sectors that are vulnerable. Contractors, especially small ones, face tighter bids and margins. The cost of new homes or renovations climbs. Long-run GDP reduction, approximately 6% under the tariff plan, per PWBM. Real wages decline approximately 5%. Middle-income households losing approximately $22,000 over their lifetimes under current policy projections. Budget model manufacturing costs could rise by 2 to 4.5% in some sectors, putting pressure on profit margins and risk to job growth. Right now, companies are absorbing much cost, but signs of price hikes are becoming visible. New reports show profit dips and warnings from businesses. Retail sales show some resilience, but consumers, especially lower income, are cutting back or changing behavior. Buying earlier, switching to cheaper brands, avoiding discretionary purchases. What might help or what people should watch for? Support for households, rebates, tax credits, relief for low and middle-income families. Diversifying supply chains, sourcing inputs from places less affected by the latest tariffs. Clear communication and transparency so businesses and consumers can anticipate cost changes. Monitoring inflation metrics carefully. Central banks may need to respond. If you thought your next raise was something to look forward to, think again. Because while you may get more dollars in your paycheck, what truly matters is what those dollars can buy. And with tariffs pushing costs of everyday essentials up, your real purchasing power is under pressure. Tariffs might help some domestic industries or producers, but the broader costs aren't free. They show up as price hikes, squeezed business profits, delayed growth, and less bang for your raise. This is the silent tax, subtle, creeping, but real. Stay aware, watch for price trends. Talk with your community, your representatives. Because if these tariffs remain, your wallet is one of the places you'll feel it most directly.